these are the findings. I'll start with the first one, and what the main things that were contributing to malnutrition: inadequate dietary intake, poor sanitation and hygiene, and inadequate childcare. I'll not go through all of them or the indicators, but you note that inadequate dietary intake, we had 64% of children who are consuming 1 to 2 food groups. And that was the baseline, and then we had poor sanitation. That was the second, and then the last one, inadequate childcare, which contributed to the low meal frequency. Then we had counseling from the assessment. So and this was the first activity, when the implementers went to the households and determined the nutrition situation, then you know where are the gaps. So they needed to go back and come up with tailor-made messages, so that the next visit they would talk about possible solutions to the caregivers. Then the next is to negotiate with the caregivers. Here are the gaps we identified. These are possible solutions and how to address them. And then the third is to document of the agreed recommendations. It's a negotiation. You tell them, for example, a caregiver, your child is consuming 2 food groups per day. Perhaps you want to add an extra one. Perhaps you want to consider a certain recipe. Then there was participatory activities such as development of seasonal calendars. Group activities such as this is to bring the community together, come up with a seasonal calendar, what is being produced in the world, which foods are being produced, when are they available at production level, are they in the market? Then you help the community come up with seasonal recipes based on the seasonal calendar. Then cooking demonstrations, this was another group training, household level, and focus group discussions, making recipes or developing recipes and cooking from the seasonal calendar, or informed by the seasonal calendar. Then actual implementation, there was, and this photo shows a collaboration between the Ministry of Agriculture and Ministry of Health, developing, or rather supporting, establishment of kitchen gardens at household level to enhance dietary diversity. Then we used existing materials, national counseling cards and dialogue cards. Then after the initial visit where we established the situation, we had 3 visits, follow-up visits every 2 weeks to assess progress, discuss possible actions, and document what were the adopted practices, which ones were rejected, which ones do we want to modify. Then evaluation stage, this is where the implementers came with what did we find, collate the information, what were the acceptable recommendations, and which ones were adopted. And then final anthropometric measurements and a final report. These were the findings. Remember, we talked about the baseline. The first one on inadequate dietary intake, there was an 100% adoption. On poor sanitation and hygiene, we had 87% adoption. And low frequency of feeding due to maternal workload, we had 97% adoption. This was a nutrition sensitive project and approach. But since we had anthropometric measurements and we had children who are acutely malnourished in the project, we found that prevalence of underweight went from 14% to 10% by the end of that project. These were the lessons learned on multi-sector collaboration, women empowerment, important to contribute to nutrition, household nutrition security, and building local level capacity, that is building the capacity of community health workers on agri-nutrition and trainers of farmers.
1 minute, 1 minute.
Okay. Challenges, we have food shortage. This project was implemented during the long rains, but there was there was a seasonal failure in Kitui, but the corrective measure was there that the community was encouraged to adopt drought-tolerant crops and water-saving technologies. Short implementation period, it was a short intervention, expectation of tangible support other than education, and then beneficiary relocation to other wards, so could not be followed up by the end of the project. And then low literacy levels, and I should have mentioned we tried the best we can to have people who would speak the local language to translate the messages. Then I may not go through all this, but these are the recommendations for nutrition-sensitive agriculture. This is nutrition-sensitive agriculture and food systems. The key recommendations, this is the document that you can get online. You can, through this URL. And the 10 key recommendations, if you look at the ISPP project, followed each and every of that step. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Angela, for that presentation. Let's warm our hands. We will give her one hearty clap. Let's warm, let's warm. Moja, thank you. So we will have our next presenter, who is Mercy Lomuk. So please note down your questions. We've agreed that we will do the Q&A after all the presenters. So please, as you're presenting, keep your eyes on Mwenda. When your time is up, Mwenda will flag you with a poster that your time is up. So Mercy, you have 8 minutes.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Mercy Lomuk from West Pokot, working for Action Against Hunger. And I'm going to present to you a case study in West Pokot on promoting nutritious vegetables for household resilience, as well as household dietary diversity. So we are looking at the nutrition status in West Pokot, and some of the factors that contribute to poor nutrition in West Pokot, one of them being the food insecurity as a result of the recurrent drought that we've been having in Kenya, and also we have the morbidity. These are mostly the illnesses that the under fives do develop. For example, we have the malaria, diarrhea, which negatively affects nutrition, the nutrition status of these children. And also the poor feeding practices and child care, as since the caregivers sometimes do have, like for the mothers, they do have maternal workload that affects their child care practices. And another issue that affects nutrition in West Pokot is the structural bit of it. For instance, low literacy levels and poverty. So the background for this study, or what we're going to present, is that we find that generally the poor feeding practices affect childhood. During the early childhood, affects malnutrition, and also as a result, it leads to child and infant mortality. And during the CAB survey, which was conducted in 2021, the results for the children among the age of 6 to 23 months showed that only 3.2% received the recommended acceptable diet, and 38.7% received the minimum meal frequency. And also, the report indicated that 17.2% attained the minimum dietary diversity, indicating that generally poor feeding practices leads to high malnutrition levels. And as at now, according to the KDHS reports, is that the starting rate is at 34% in West Pokot. So all these factors, including food insecurity at household levels, leads to the high malnutrition cases that we have in West Pokot. And for this, and responding to them and acting to see the levels of malnutrition reducing in West Pokot, action against hunger through its food security interventions, targeted mother-to-mother support groups in a multi-sectoral approach with agriculture interventions in order to see how we can intervene for these cases that we have. So the methodology that we're having is that we picked a case study for one of our projects that we implemented last year, which was implemented between the period of June to December 2022, whereby we targeted 7 mother-to-mother support groups. And for mother-to-mother support groups, we mean their caregivers with children under the age of 2, and also some are pregnant or lactating. So for this target group, we train them in collaboration with the Ministry of Agriculture, the Ministry of Health, and the Social Services. They were trained on several topics, including on how, for instance, the Agriculture Department supported in training them on how to produce nutritious vegetables among other crops that will improve their household dietary diversity. And also, apart from training the groups on production, they are also trained on how to utilize and also how to prepare so that they consume whatever they have in different, okay. Fine. So the outcome of the study was determined by the baseline and the end-line results, as we are going to see in the next slide. And we can see that we noted an increase in dietary diversity at households and the proportion of households consuming green leafy vegetables increased from 72.5% to 88% during the end-line assessment. Also, for the dietary diversity for the children under the age of 5, it was noted that there was an increase from 66.7% to 80%. And also, during the trainings, we realized that it was really helpful for the caregivers, as 93% of them learned how to practice organic farming, and 75% learned about dryland farming, and they were able to take it up at household level for replication purposes. So these are just some of the photos in our project. You can see we have the conical gardens that we are promoting as one of the methods that uses minimal water, and other kitchen gardening technologies like the sunken bed, the raised beds, which are suitable for the climatic conditions in West Pokot. Some of the key lessons learned during the project was that malnutrition can be tackled through multi-sectoral approach, and this one can be done the multi-sectoral approach at county level, and even for the intervention that we have as an organization. Then promotion of climate-smart agriculture also improves the utilization of nutritious food, as shown by the results. And the agriculture intervention also is a key sector for improving household food security and income, because some of the indicators that we are also measuring at households for the groups that we are targeting was the income levels. And we saw that there was some significant impact increase in it. What are the next steps, or what are we planning to do, or can be part of recommendations as well, is that it's important to, you should upscale the climate-smart agriculture interventions, targeting mother-to-mother support groups, and also other community groups that we have within our areas of operation. And also, other than promoting kitchen gardening, we can think of upscaling to larger farms and also diversify the crops that we promote. Then we are also looking at promoting, other than vegetables, diversified vegetables. We are looking at diversifying in terms of high-value nutritious crops. For instance, we can look at the butternuts, the pumpkins, and other varieties that we have not ventured into. And also, we are also working towards improving male involvement in our project so that they can support the mothers or the women in the activities, farming activities. Okay, fine. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mercy. She actually kept to time, exactly 8 minutes. So thank you. Let's warm our hands and give her one hearty clap. Let's, okay, 1 to go. Thank you. So we will call our next presenter, Robert. I hope we are getting the message loud and clear, what we have been talking about since yesterday, multi-sectoral approach to our interventions, multi-sectoral coordination is the key to us to eradicate malnutrition. So karibu sana, Robert, you have 8 minutes.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Otundo Robert, working with FAO as an M&D specialist. Welcome everyone, and we are glad that you're here. So I'll be presenting a result on a project that is called Tobacco Free Farms project. I hope it's loading. It's a Tobacco Free Farms project, and the project is providing alternatives to tobacco production that are nutrition sensitive. So by a way of introduction, this was a UN agency-led kind of project that was based in Migori County, targeting four wards in Migori, and it is a partnership between World Health Organization, FAO, and the World Food Program, with very specific roles for each of the agencies. So by a way of introduction, tobacco production in Kenya, if you look at the numbers, we notice that at least 36,000 farmers produce tobacco in Kenya, putting about 13,000 hectares of land. And for your information, tobacco production accounts for less than 1% of the economy, that is the GDP. There are a number of effects associated with tobacco, where the most conspicuous one is the green tobacco sickness, which is associated with the nicotine based on handling of the tobacco, and also the upper respiratory diseases, that is especially when you are conducting post-handling, especially curing. And then despite this information and a number of other effects, production of tobacco still goes on, with the farmers assuming that the financial benefits outweigh the costs, and also the production has no effect on their health, as well as the environment, water, and the soil. So if you look at the picture in front of you, you will notice that one thing that is very clear is that tobacco is a labor-intensive activity, and in most cases, very labor-intensive activities, women and children are involved. This photo shows a lactating mother with her child at a tobacco sorting point. So it poses a number of risks to the child and also to the mother, and also it poses a challenge in terms of providing sufficient time for the child to be able to be given attention in terms of feeding. So that is tobacco being a very, also with this one is already cured kind of leaves, and they produce fumes that have an effect in the health of the child and also the mother. And then this project was conducted in Migori County as a pilot, and it started with the process of selecting the most suitable alternative to tobacco, and it was through a consultative process. And through the consultation, it was settled on the Nyota bean variety, which is a very fast maturing. It takes about 75 days to mature. It's quick to cook. It takes around 30 to 40 minutes to be ready. It's highly nutritious with the iron and the zinc, especially for lactating mothers and also women of productive age. And also, Nyota bean was settled on because it's really marketable. The demand is very high. So the project started with very intensive sensitization campaigns to create awareness on the dangers of producing tobacco. This is an activity that was led by World Health Organization, who are also the main funders of the project, and also farmer enrollment into the subsidy program to be able to support the farmers to start the cultivating tobacco. And then capacity building in terms of building the capacity of farmers, their productive capacity, and also post-harvest management was also conducted through the season, and also activities around sensitization on the consumption and the utilization of the high iron bean through the cooking demos in schools and at health centers was conducted. And also another activity was promotion of Nyota bean, market linkages. This was done through a very elaborate system of using of farmer service centers who are acting as the aggregation centers, as well as the points of access for the farmers in terms of input and also the markets. So, and then also the project was involved also the activity of generating data for purposes of information generation. This is purposely for cost-benefit analysis, which was very critical in terms of convincing the farmers to be able to shift. And one of the key notable finding from the cost-benefit analysis is that it costs more than 7 times more to produce tobacco than to produce beans, and also the income generated from beans is 6 times more than that of beans. So the gross margin analysis also was conducted to be able to provide a basis for the pricing of the Nyota bean, which was found that farmers can make up to 100% of the profit. And also we did soil and water sampling and testing, and the results were provided through the Calro Research Center. So preliminary findings are that more than 1,500 farmers have agreed to shift, have already shifted from the production of Nyota beans from the production of tobacco to Nyota bean. 16 schools in Migori County and 2 hospitals are already purchasing and consuming Nyota bean through the intervention. And also the households that was targeted have already setting aside the Nyota bean for purposes of consumption. And also from the reports received, from the reports, you will be able to notice that even the reports on green tobacco sickness have reduced. And also through the project intervention, private companies have been linked to the trade, to the farmers in Migori, and they are now buying and processing the Nyota bean. And then also among the key findings is that long-term cultivation of tobacco leads to reduction of soil organic matter and soil micronutrients, which is critical to human health. So among the lessons that we have learned is that evidence-based kind of sensitization is very critical, because through the cost-benefit analysis, farmers could be able to see for sure it is more beneficial to produce Nyota bean than to produce tobacco. And then also intensification of awareness campaigns on high iron beans had a great contribution to the shift. And also when farmers are assured of market that is ready and also available in terms of input and output market, there is high likelihood of them shifting. So what we conclude from this, there is need to intensify the production of nyota bean because there is demand. In Kenya, from the reports, we produce about 700 and we consume about 755,000 metric tons of beans, while we produce only 600,000 metric tons. So there is already a deficit. So we need to intensify the production to be able to meet the demand. Even if we shift all the 35 farmers, there is a high likelihood that we may not meet the demand. And then among the other things, we need to promote reforestation and climate smart agriculture. And also we need to also intensify the social behavior change communications in schools and the health centers, and also promote linkages. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I love that 1,500 households were able to shift from growing tobacco to beans that they can actually produce, because I'm sure were they consuming the tobacco at home? They were not. Hata ukiconsume hautashiba. All right? Yes, so that is very, very awesome. So thank you for that, Robert. I now want to call Dr. Milka. Can we give one hearty clap for Robert? Pasha, tumpe moja. Thank you. Karibu sana, daktari. So let's have Dr. Milka's presentation.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. How are you? My name is Milka Mutuku from Egerton University in the Department of Applied Community Development Studies. Now, my presentation is not based on a study, so it is going to be different from the other three that we've just been listening to. We are presenting the philosophy of a program, a bachelor's program that trains extension officers, which we believe can contribute positively to fighting malnutrition. And we are doing this because we realize many people have not known that we have that program, and we believe it can serve Kenya in a great way. So the presentation we are talking about towards eradication of malnutrition through the human ecology approach in training agricultural extension workforce. Now, we are basing our argument on the fact that the factors that contribute to malnutrition are multidiversified, and therefore we also require multidiversified approaches in fighting malnutrition. We realize that if we use integrated, interdisciplinary, or even transdisciplinary approaches, the better even. So what we realize is that much of the approaches that are applied in fighting malnutrition, they are limited in scope, and especially the issues to do with human ecology are not handled adequately. And we realize they are handled superficially. If you look at the programs that we use, I'm talking from the academia point of view. You look at the programs that train extension officers, then you realize the human ecology aspects are not usually covered well. And very little citizen science is utilized also in fighting malnutrition. And we realize that extension and advisory services really play a very crucial role in the fight against malnutrition, and especially in the bridging the knowledge gap, and even creating awareness amongst citizens. And therefore, it's very important that we do train people in the right way, the people that are going to do that work. And we also realize that the work of the extension officer is really changing from that of linking the farmers and the citizens to research stations, to that of facilitating the dissemination, the generation, the dissemination, and the utilization of knowledge. And therefore, we need a people that can be able to do all that. We have a major problem that, just as I've said, that in training extension officers, we tend to use a unidisciplinary kind of an approach. And we are expecting these people to go out there in the field and be able to handle this huge thing that we are talking about, that requires a multi-sectoral approach. Yet this person that we are training, we've not exposed them to that. So we also realize the mindset. I'm talking about what I know and the way we've come up with the departments in the universities where we train our extensionists. And you know, they belong to this department and the other belongs to that other department with very little interaction except where they are sharing a unit. But getting them to do things together, we don't see it much. And therefore, we are expecting this person that we've trained with a mindset of, I belong to this department, and my work, my profession is this one. We are expecting them to handle a multi-sectoral issue. And therefore, we realize that is a big problem. So the solution that we are suggesting is based on a philosophical kind of thinking, where we are talking about the philosophical basis of a training program is very important. And why is this so? Because it fits into the mindset of the people that we are training. So if we begin with them in the right way, then in the field they will also do the right thing. And therefore, we are suggesting the application of the systems model of human ecology in the context of humanistic philosophy, where we are looking at systems, interaction of systems, and looking at humanistic philosophy. We are talking about where we consider that every person, each one of us in this planet, we have something to offer. And therefore, when we are dealing with farmers, we are dealing with citizens out there, we look at them as people with something to offer in fighting this issue of malnutrition. So we don't go there as experts per se and treat them as people that don't know anything, but we are looking at them as creators of knowledge and dissemination and also utilization of the same. And when we talk about human ecology, we are just basically looking at how the human interacts with their environment. And therefore, we think if we go that way, then we can really ride on the reciprocal exchange of energy and material and information based on that kind of a structure that we put down there. So if we look at on the left side, we have the social system, where we have the knowledge, we have the technology, we have the human customs, we have the population, and on the other side, we have the ecosystem where we have the plants and the microorganisms and animals and all that. If we train people that are able to look at our existence, as though we exist in a system, we exist in a system that, influences one another, the animals, the plants, the people, the knowledge, the actions, whatever they do, and the services that we get from those ecosystems, they influence one another and they affect what we come out with. Then if we have a person that has that kind of a mindset, then we think that person can fit well in fighting or eradicating malnutrition. Egerton University, we have the Bachelor of Science in Agriculture and Human Ecology Extension that is based on that philosophy that I've just talked about. And it really is a program that combines agricultural and nutritional knowledge with a human ecology approach. And it values citizen science. So these people, once they graduate, then they are able to facilitate and advise on integration of food production and nutrition and for improved quality of life. So I just want to flip through on the kind of subjects We've grouped them into about 15. So we have those and then those. Thank you so much. Thank you. My time is up.
Thank you very much, Dr. Milka. How many of us feel like you were trained unidisciplinary to deal with a multidisciplinary issue? Do we all feel like that? Yeah? Yeah, so sometimes I am there talking to mothers in the mother-to-mother support group, and we want to talk about kitchen gardens, but I have no idea. So it's a challenge, you know? Can we have training that looks at all those aspects that we need to be addressing? So thank you. Let's warm our hands as I welcome our next chair, Dr. Emily. Let's warm tumpe moja. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Christine. Let's appreciate Christine. Moja moto. Perfect. Let's all stand for 1 minute. You know, after lunch, what happens is that you start, as more presentations are coming, what happens? Yeah, so just stretch a little and don't knock your neighbor. Come on, try to turn behind as you stretch. Muulize sasa. Yeah? Okay, fine. All right, please sit down. Thank you. Again, just a kind reminder, keep your questions, okay? After these sessions, we have a few more presentations to be done. After that, then we can have all the questions. You can ask the questions after that. So I think we are really doing well with time. My name is Dr. Emily Teshome. I'm an advisor in the Nutrition Sensitive Advisor, working for USAID Advancing Nutrition. Our next speaker is Happiness Oruko. Happiness. We should be smiling. She's called Happiness. Okay, great. Happiness will be sharing with us a topic on functionality of multi-sectoral platforms and their influence on nutrition outcomes in West Pokot County. Kenya, welcome. You have 8 minutes.
Good afternoon. My name is Happiness Oruko. I work for Amref Health Africa in Kenya, and today I'm going to present about, it's actually not about functionality, but the role of multi-sectoral platforms and their influence on nutrition outcomes in West Pokot County. So I'm not going to go through this because we've really talked about a multi-sectoral approach from our discussions yesterday and also today morning. So I'm not going to go about defining what an MSP is, but just to to build up on what other presenters have presented about West Pokot County. According to the KDHS data, that is 2022, stunting is currently at 34%. This has really, compared to 18% currently at the national level, this has really improved over time from 46% in 2014. And we also understand that nutrition-sensitive interventions are very key in terms of addressing the underlying determinants of malnutrition. Research has really shown that NSI interventions could address up to 60% of the malnutrition burden. So if we really don't implement the nutrition-sensitive interventions, then we are really prone to having this continuous cycle of stunting, especially to those counties that are really exposed. So MSP really galvanizes or brings together the nutrition-sensitive interventions and also nutrition-specific interventions just to be able to ensure that there is efficient utilization of resources, to be able to tackle issues of food and nutrition security, and also look at chronic and also the other kind of malnutrition, acute malnutrition. So we did a study last year in June 2022. The goal of the study was to, the overall objective was to establish the role of the MSP in West Pokot County in addressing food and nutrition security issues. So we had 4 specific objectives. One was to determine the existing nutrition coordination stakeholder structures. The other one was to look at whether the food and nutrition security interventions really are aligned towards the county food and nutrition priorities and also the national level. And the third one was looking at contextual factors on what influences functionality of the MSP. And also the other 4th one was looking at sustainability, assessing the available support system for sustainability of the MSP in West Pokot. So our study was cross-sectional. Our study design was cross-sectional in nature, and it was purely qualitative. So we had around 25 key informant interviews with representatives from the various line ministries, some of who sit in the MSP. We also had various implementing partners. We had 9 FGDs with CSOs and also CBOs, as well as CHVs, including farmer groups. And our data was really sort of audio recorded, transcribed, and also coded using Max QDA, so that we were able to arrange our data according to the various themes, and we analyzed it thematically using content analysis. So in terms of the results, for the first one, various existing nutrition coordination structures exist in the county. So we have the CNTF, we have CSG, MSP, among others. But the key gaps is, one, that some of the stakeholders were really not aware of these platforms and the coordination structures. For example, MSP in particular, and also the CSG. The other gap was that some of these platforms are really at the county level, so they really need to be sort of taken to the sub-county level, for example, the CNTF. There was also a lack of community representation in some of the platforms, particularly the MSP and other stakeholder forums. Issues of funding was also coming up during the study in terms of ensuring consistency of these meetings. And then in terms of alignment to the county, national and county food and nutrition security interventions, we were actually looking at the FNS priorities based on what is in the CNAP. CNAP has around 12 key result areas. If you look at the CNAP, it's actually aligned to the national one, which has 19 key result areas. But some of the gaps that we found out is that some stakeholders were really not aware of some of these priorities, especially what is in the CNAP, which was quite interesting. And then some of the stakeholders also were not aware of the objectives of the MSP. There was also minimal evidence in terms of participation of the FNS priorities. So really looking back at how the CNAP was developed, so there's need to really pick up lessons and maybe in future ensure that communities are incorporated or even more stakeholders. Poor dissemination of some of the FNS priorities, especially the MSP terms of reference by then. And then we also found out, interestingly, despite that most of the partners and also the interventions that were happening in the county were aligned to the FNS priorities in CNAP and also other county strategic documents such as the CIDP, there were some interventions that were really left out, or some key result areas that were left out. So for example, by then we found out like the key result area 10, like we really didn't have partners who were really implementing strongly there, or it was not adequately covered compared to other key result areas, according to the CNAP. So some of the quotes are highlighted there. So in terms of objective 3, contextual factors that influence MSP. So MSP is present in West Pokot County, and it's actually functional. However, there's really need to ensure that the meetings are regular, they're scheduled, follow-up of the action points and discussions should be done, and also issues of lobbying of resources. So we found out that some of the facilitating factors were availability of well-established government structures, technical capacity of some of the members of the MSP and also the stakeholders, willingness and commitment of the various stakeholders. Actually, others were really willing to plug in into the MSP. those that were not members. Some of the barriers were issues of resources, whether financial or human, issues of governance of the MSP. By then, there was really concern that there's really need to build the capacity of the MSP members. And then also issues of failure to prioritize MSP by some of the key stakeholders. If you look back at the other slide, there are various meetings or various platforms. So one of the key things that was emerging was that if partners are told to attend, let's say MSP, they're like, we attended another, let's say CNTF meeting the other day, or CSG. So is this not the same thing, or what are the difference between these structures and all that? So issues of prioritization of MSP. So in terms of the proposed solutions, what was coming out from the study, there's really need to introduce subcommittees to be able to strengthen the management and governance of the MSP, having very clear channels of communication and ensuring consistency so that really people are not surprised in terms of those meetings, ensuring that we incorporate community voices into the MSP. It's really important so that really we are addressing the real community needs. And then, of course, there's also the need for the line ministries and partners to really finance MSP, because at the end of the day, partners are there, but the government will always be there. So there's really need to ensure that there's a lot of commitment from the government in terms of financing. And of course, institutionalizing MSP through having a policy framework, outlining the clear roles of the various partners, and all that. So in conclusion, sorry, I will not read the... in conclusion, so there's need to improve inclusivity. There's need to improve inclusivity, like I've talked about. There's need to really review the implementation of the FNS priorities. So I remember there was a question yesterday on whether the counties have really gone ahead to review the status of their various CNAP. So there's really need to, even as we build up to the next phase, there's really need to look at how counties are implementing CNAP and where they are in terms of progress, and also issues of government commitment and ownership in terms of convening, management of the MSP, regular review of the membership, and also following up on the discussions which I've talked about. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Happiness. Okay, let us warm and give our one hot one. Let's go. Great, thank you. Thank you so much. Please let's, as presenters, make sure that you check and so that you don't miss out on your timing. Our next speaker is Janet Mwikali. Janet Mwikali. Oh, there you are. Yeah, Janet Mwikali Mwema. She'll be speaking on promoting climate-smart agriculture as an alternative livelihood in drought-affected areas. You have 8 minutes.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone.
IT, please.
My name is Janet Mwikali Mwema. I work for Action Against Hunger as a FSL assistant based in Isiolo. My presentation will be about promoting climate-smart agriculture as an alternative livelihood in drought-affected counties. I'm waiting for my presentation, please.
IT, please, would you upload the presentation?
As we wait, I will give a background of Isiolo County. It's classified as arid and semi-arid. And the main livelihood zones, we have 53% being pastoral. We also have agro-pastoral, and we have 32 as waged labor. How do I operate this, please? Thank you. So we've been experiencing a frequent and prolonged drought over the last 5 seasons in Isiolo, and we have GAM levels as 15.5%, and 35% of Isiolo population is classified as food insecure. Oops. Yeah, thank you. So what have been the impacts of drought in Isiolo County? We have a poor livestock body condition, low milk production, mass livestock deaths, migration of livestock to other counties, increasing likelihoods of conflicts, and reduced area under crop production by 50%. As we have said, Isiolo, they are majorly dependent on livestock. So these impacts of drought on their livestock that has severely affected their source of livelihood. The drought has led to increased food insecurity, increased poverty, increased cases of malnutrition, negative coping strategies, and women and children bear the brunt of harsh climatic conditions and food insecurity. What is the objective of our project? Our main aim was to improve accessibility, availability, and consumption of nutrition vegetables at household levels, promote dietary diversification, fight malnutrition, diversify sources of income, and reduce time spent searching for vegetables in markets. What was our approach? We worked in collaboration with the Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Health, county, and private sectors. We had Sakata seed companies. Sakata is a company that deals in provision of hybrid seeds. They're supporting us by providing hybrid vegetable seeds, and we are also working with Kickstart. They're providing us with the irrigation kits. And SCF as an organization, as a global and county-specific food security, livelihood, and resilience strategy that addresses climate change challenges. Our target group was mother-to-mother support groups, women of reproductive age, and youth groups. These women were trained on farming of high-value food using principles of agroecology. We're talking about recycling, diversity. And then the approach we also used was what we call permaculture technologies, where we do double digging. When you're talking about Isiolo, we are talking about or any arsal places that are very dry. And if you are going to do any farming or any planting of anything, you have to be very careful. So we did the double digging of the ground to break the hard pan. And also we used locally available materials. We trained these groups, or the women in the groups, to use the locally available materials to improve soil fertility, and also to make the compost to improve the soil fertility. And we also used organic manure for the same. And then again, in areas where there is water scarcity, we did what we call water recycling. The water that you are getting from the kitchen, from our bathroom, we treat the water and we recycle it for our gardens. And then we were growing local drought-resistant vegetables. Somebody was asking in our previous discussion about the traditional vegetables. And this is what we have measured on. We growing amaranthus, we are growing jute mallows, okra. When you talk of tomatoes, you are going for cherry tomatoes, you are doing spring onions. Because when you go to Isiolo, especially in the area of Samburu community, you find that these people have never been trained in farming. You are going to the community and they're telling us, we've never been farming. These are pastoralists, and some of them are what we are calling dropout pastoralists. They were pastoralists, they have lost all their livestock to drought, and they are there with no source of livelihood. So we are training them, and we don't want to give them Sukuma Wiki. We consider Sukuma Wiki as much as, oh God, I'm being told I have only 2 minutes, sorry. Let me hurry up. Yeah, growing of drought-resistant vegetables, and cooking and consumption demonstration by nutritionists. And then results of this, we trained 63 women on farming. We trained them on setting up the nutritious gardens. We supported them with farming tools. We supported them with seeds. And each household was also supplied with fruit tree seedlings. We are talking about climate smart agriculture. So it's wide and it encompasses a lot of areas. And tree planting for fruits was also considered. What is next? Those are the pictures when you're forming the gardens. And then out of the 63 women, 16 have enlarged or expanded their gardens for more vegetables. And according to food consumption score assessment that was conducted 4 months into the project, there is easy access to vegetables and reported improved dietary diversification, improved income from the sale of surplus of vegetables, and improved food security at household level. And then we have a case study of a young mother. She's called Maria. She's 20 years old in Labashirik. Maria was trained. She formed her gardens. And we are also training these women in VSLA. And they have formed the VSLA groups. And for the case of Maria, she sells per week 200 shillings from her garden. And the money, she saved it in the VSLA group. And in the VSLA, she's able to access a loan in case of need. And she also has expanded her garden twice to grow more veggies, especially for sale, in addition to consumption. That is Maria from Labashirik. Key lessons learned: there is a big potential for scaling up climate-smart agriculture in pastoral communities as an adaptation measure. And then the pastoral community is ready to embrace climate-smart farming technologies. Traditional vegetables exhibit better tolerance to pests and diseases. There is demand by the rest of the county, that is Isiolo County, to replicate the gardens to other parts. This is the last one, please. Action Against Hunger plans to improve access to vegetables from 63 households that has been reached within the last 6 months to over 500 households in this year, 2023. We are planning also to train more youths on production of high-value crops through climate-smart technologies. We are going to partner with more private sectors to avail seeds, irrigation kits, and other inputs for the smallholder farmers. Promote market linkages for nutritious crops as a driver for technology adaptation, train communities on food preservation to reduce the lean months. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very, very much. Let's appreciate her. One round, hot one. Actually, thank you. Really, really, you've tried very hard because we took part of your minutes as we were trying to get that presentation uploaded, and we appreciate that very much. There's a lot of effort going on as far as promoting climate-smart agriculture is on. We have 2 more presentations to go. The next one is by Kimani. Kimani will be speaking to us about nutrition-sensitive potato partnership project, a project that's being implemented in Trans Nzoia County. IT, please. Presentation for Kimani.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. My name is Lydia Kimani from Trans Nzoia County, Nutrition Health Department. I'm here to present a project that we did, supported by GIZ, Germany agency. They were supporting farmers to do potatoes. I'm saying as I'm waiting for my presentation. Oh, it's there now. So some farmers were doing potato farming, and we came in with nutrition messages. So it was a nutrition-sensitive potato partnership project that was being implemented from 2019 to 2022 in our county, Trans Nzoia. As a background, children and women of reproductive age are most vulnerable, and they suffer from malnutrition. Inadequate knowledge on healthy food choices, appropriate combinations, childcare and optimal feeding practices hinder households from benefiting from available nutrient-rich foods. And if you look at Trans Nzoia County, KDHS 2014, our underweight was at 15.3, stunting was at 29.2, and wasting at 3.9. So as much as we are the food basket, our stunting rates were high, and that's why we were chosen for this project. The objective of NUSEP, or Nutrition Sensitive Potato Partnership Project, was to improve basic knowledge and individual dietary diversity among pregnant women, lactating, and also children under 5 years. But the project did not just focus on women and children, it was looking at farmers, and we'll look at this, and even men were there. So methods, 23 personnel from the Department of Health and Agriculture were trained from 3 sub-counties. We have 5 sub-counties, so 3 sub-counties were trained, and these personnel were nutritionists, home economics from Agriculture Department, and public health officers from health, and also community health extension workers. They were trained on the household food production, essential nutrition actions, and also essential hygienic actions. They went on a 5 days training in 2019. After that, this team, they then conducted further trainings in 10 wards in the 3 sub-counties to potato, farmer, field, and business schools. And these farmer, field, and business schools, as they were called, schools without walls, we used to get them assisted by our agriculture team. They would bring together the farmer, field, and business schools. They'll have the schools, and then we'll come in with the nutrition messages, the wash messages, and also household production, food production messages. There were some handbooks and dialogue cards that assisted the trainers when they were training the farmers. So the teams held periodic review meetings and prepared annual plans for the 4 years. So every year we'll sit down and do reviews and plans. So we integrated nutrition messages, especially maternal, infant, and young child nutrition messages, food demonstrations. We'll do cookery demonstrations with the farmers. The use of tippy-taps, kitchen gardenings were also set up during these trainings. So there were the nutrition messages, food demonstrations, setting up of tippy-taps and also how to use them, and also kitchen gardening. And to build resilience, you remember we started in 2019, but 2020 we had a COVID-19 outbreak. So again, we were supported to train the farmers on COVID-19 mitigation measures, and also we taught them on liquid soap making. So we were able to continue the trainings even during COVID-19 period. So results, 1433 the farmer, field, and business schools that were set up by staff. They are called staff-led farmers who are reached. 879 farmer, field, and business schools that were farmer-led. A farmer used to form these groups. They were also reached. And 11,560 indirect beneficiaries were reached. And those that were reached with nutrition integration messages, that is nutrition, wash, and also the home household food production, around 1330 were reached. 1 county nutrition staff, 9 sub-county staff, 13 community health extension workers, and 10 CHVs were reached with these messages.
You could summarize your results.
Sorry?
You could summarize your results.
Thank you. So this increased the community dietary diversity score from 4.1 at baseline to 6.3, and this is according to NUSEP CAP assessment in 2022, and they were looking at 9 food groups, not 10, and the 9, they combined the pulses and legumes and nuts together, so there were 9 food groups. Now, according to KDHS now 2022, in our county, Trans Nzoia County, there was improvement. Like you'll see, underweight, we moved from 15.3 to 11.1 downwards. Stunting also came down from 29.2 to 21.3. And also wasting from 3.9 to 3.2. And we are saying this is not just a contribution of NUSEP program, but it's a contribution that can be attributed to efforts of nutrition-sensitive and nutrition-specific interventions in the county. So the lessons learned is that the farmer field and business schools methodology of reaching out to the community with nutrition messages ensured that we had more days with potato farmers to give them messages. And can be used in other value chains. We are only using the potato. We can go to tomato, banana, or any other, even chicken. It can be used in health community strategy to form groups. And like in our county, we tried with one community unit, and that is why we have a booth outside there of a kitchen garden. It's something we tried. And in conclusion, we are saying enhancing nutrition education and locally available food diversification promotes a variety of food for consumption and results in positive change in knowledge, attitude, and practice, key to reducing malnutrition and improving health. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. Thank you very, very much. Let's give her one hot one. Perfect, okay. I hope you are writing your questions somewhere so that at the end of this, we are going to be having the last speaker, then we can be able to have a time for Q&A. So Josephine, oh, there you are. Josephine Mwema is going to be speaking to us about scaling up production and consumption of biofortified crops for nutrition and climate resilience. Karibu, Josephine. IT, would you upload Josephine's presentation, please?
Good afternoon. My name is Josephine Mwema from World Food Program as a nutrition officer. Today, this afternoon, we'll be doing a presentation around scaling up production and consumption of biofortified crops for nutrition and climate resilience. Why are we doing this? World Food Program operational areas are mainly in the arid and semi-arid counties. And as we speak now, I think we are just assuming or looking forward to the end of the worst drought in 40 years in this country. And with the ASALs, the climate change is one of the areas where this is being felt and being felt in big time. But looking at the equity and equality of the distribution of resources and benefit of everyone, how can we include everyone and not leave anyone behind when it comes to development and addressing issues on food and nutrition security? So for this, in the last 5 years, WFP in the arid counties, we have been promoting the integration of resilient livelihood activities for sustainable food systems. And within the approach is to look at what are the alternative livelihoods that these communities can be engaged in. And echoing earlier presenters around the challenges, if they are pastoralists, what is happening to them with loss of their livestock? Are they changing the way of life? And we are seeing by and by there is increase on adoption of crop production. And therefore these communities need to be supported to be able to venture into these areas. Also to note that as we speak of the ASAL areas, we don't miss out some oases of hope. we have the river line. What is it that we can do with it? We have most of our partners here represented, including our county government, doing a lot of water harvesting systems, high impact projects. What are we doing with this water? Is it only for livestock? And how can we leverage on the same water for production? So through the research institution, International Potato Center, and the International Crop for Tropical Agriculture, and CARRO, who have supported the production of biofortified crops, and specifically for the purpose of this discussion, is on high iron-rich beans and orange-fresh sweet potatoes, then we see the opportunity to take the learning and the research from those labs, from those farms, to the communities. So with the engagement with our community activities and being in these ASAL areas, then we give the partners the platform to reach out. Most people focus on the basket of this country, but we are saying that, yes, even in the ASALs, there is hope. So why are we talking of these two crops? One is because they are drought resistant, and that does not mean they don't need water. But at what point do they need water? How long do they take to mature? Take, for example, if you had a cow and it was heavy or expecting, how long will it take to deliver? It will take 9 months. What if the drought comes? You either have the baby calf or you lose it. So looking at the alternative livelihoods, these crops are growing within a very short time. For HIB, is between 60 to 70 days, and for orange-fresh sweet potato is between 12 and 16 weeks. How did we approach the whole system with the county government and the introduction of these two crops? One, we had an exploration, and this was in early 2020, just before COVID, whereby we had the research institutions going to these counties, engaging with the communities, engaging with the county government on what are the plans. But also this is also necessitated by the lifestyle and the culture of the people in the ASAL. And noting that I saw Mandela represented, I don't know that Garissa is here, but if you go to the ASAL, one of the common food that you never miss on your plate is beans. But where are the beans coming from? Balak already talked about the big gap. 700,000 metric tons versus the 600 and below. So it means if we look at a value chain approach, then there is a gap to be filled, both for supply and for consumption. And therefore there is the need. However, looking at the production and what is required to produce these commodities, then we have to think of what are the agro and ecological characteristics that we have to focus on. So for us, the approach was it was a phased approach, but we focused in all the counties. I think the only county is Wajir that is there, that we are yet to be. And from the trials, because this was done through demonstration sites, to try for the trial of the viability of this. By the end, we have two counties that are moving to the next step, and this is Tana River and Garissa. In Tana River, we are looking at 6 hectares of land for seed production in this cropping season, and this is also to bridge the gap of the seed availability, and Bala can attest to that. For us to get the first seeds in 2022, we had to place an order in 2020. For even a crop that had not been planted. So seed availability is a big challenge, and we must fill the gap if this has to fill the gap in the nutrition and the resilient. The other thing I would want to say around the same, when you think of these two crops, they are both cover crops, and two for beans, we know very well for legumes, they are nitrogen fixating to improving the fertility of the soils. So as we look at the nutrition productivity, as we look at achieving the nutrient gap, we are also looking how else can we work with our climate? How can we preserve? Many of the speakers have talked about climate smart agriculture. These are also animal feeds. We are also talking of small livestock production at the household level. So we are not doing it as a standalone, but looking at other activities can be linked and leveraged upon. So one of the results from these trials is the productivity. As I said, we must start by filling the gap. We don't expect people to consume if we are not producing. In the two counties, Tana River and Baringo, we had a good results of 1:16. This is the productivity one. You plant 1 kg, you get 16 kilos. The expected is around 1 kg to 25 kgs. We are not doing so badly, looking at even the challenges that we had during these trials. And as we continue working with the sector, agriculture, this can be improved. Again, the productivity within the time frame provided, the short time, 60 to 70 days. The cooking times, I don't have to labor on that. I think Balak already preempted on that, and there is evidence around that. Again, one thing I would want to point out there is also the women involvement. How much time is required? If you think of sweet potatoes, how many times do you go to weed? It's a cover crop. How much energy do you require to uproot compared to tobacco? So women time is well spent for the benefit of their children. One of the lessons learned is around linking, layering, and leveraging across the different activities. You can't do it alone, but we need to look at who else do we need to bring on board, what other resources are available at the community level that we can leverage on. As we move on by, then we see resources decreasing, and therefore we need to have sustainability measures on board. So when we think of water availability in the ASAL, are we going to create a water structure only for HIB and OFSP? No. But we look at what other production cycles are happening. For example, in the case of Tana River, there's a lot of production of the green glams. So how can we have the farmers integrate the same? Again, we are saying we need to continue with the trials for innovative measures to address the deteriorating environmental conditions in the ASALs. The fight is not over. We have just started. So this is not the only solution. And therefore, we have to continue looking at what else can work. And I think from ACF, we have seen the other crops that are also working well in the ASAL. The again is to need to scale up the adoption of the farmer service centers, and this is where we have a one-stop shop. It could be an agrovet, it could be a farmer lead who can be able to provide the better agronomical services, including the input supply. So that is something that we need to continue scaling up in this ASAL. Again, the establishment of the seed system, where are we headed to? Because for us, as I say, to fill the gap, we must have our seeds. So seed system need to be strengthened. The beauty of the HIB value chain, you can have the seed to 3 times before you get a new seed. And that means that the cost is brought down for production. What are we recommending? One is the adoption of the climate-smart agricultural practices. Without that, then we cannot have the sustainable diets that we want to have. We cannot have healthy and nutritious diet that communities can rely on in coming years. The other, we must include the social behavior change. And this is not only on consumption, but also on the supply. Looking at the beans, they are all there. How do we ensure that, yes, they can adopt the new varieties that are more nutritive? So social behavior change remains a key component, as well as to influence the knowledge, the practices, and the skills. I don't know how many of you here soak beans before you cook, because that's the question you're going to ask us. Why are you telling us that it cooks faster than the other beans? So, yeah, practices. What do we take away? Diversification. For these communities who have just been relying on pastoral production, we are talking of climate change, we are talking of seasonality. What is it that they need to do? So diversification of livelihoods comes in. If I have beans within the first 60 to 70 days, it's ready. I have my sweet potatoes within 3 to 4 months, then it means throughout the year the household can have their food sustained. Again, timely seed availability, this remains a challenge, and therefore seed bulking and seed production at county levels need to be enhanced. Thank you.
Thank you. Wow, that's great. Thank you, Josephine. Okay, let's appreciate Josephine as well. A hot one. Just one big one. Let's go. Great. Thank you. Thank you all presenters. I know we are running out of time. And I understand we've only been given about 8 minutes. The time seems to be getting short every time. 8 minutes for questions and answers. So this is what we're going to do. Initially, we thought we'll have time to have them here. But I think maybe what you need to do is that please mention or say the question or ask the question and say who you directly need to, so that the presenter can answer it, okay? So that we don't move, we just sit where you are. So I'll take the first 3, okay? Yes, please. We have the other.
Yes, good evening, everyone. I'm Derek Ojuku. Now, I have questions for 3 presenters. First goes to Barack Okoba. You've talked about cultivation of beans. Now, that is good, but now my question is, you mentioned something to do with the long-term cultivation of tobacco, having some problems leading to soil nutrient degradation. So you will try to explain that. And second question goes to Kimani on NUSEP in Trans Nzoia. Do we have a specific variety for the potato you're using for the NUSEP? Or are you just using any type of variety for the program? And then the nutritional value, because now Trans Nzoia is more on maize cultivation. So which part of Trans Nzoia did you do your study from, and how are they embracing that study? Because ukienda kila mahali Kitale, kitu tutaona ni mahindi. Then the last question goes to Josephine on the biofortified crops. Now, the only question here is the ratio. You've said I had an issue with the variety, but you talked about Nyota. Now, this Nyota, where do we get the certified seed from for the Nyota? Because in most of the agrovets, sijaiona certified seed ya hiyo. Maybe they are there in research institutions. Yes, thank you.
I want us to pick 2 more questions and then the answer, okay? So there's, and there was another hand behind there.
Yeah, so my first question is to Angela, and it's on whether there was any post-implementation monitoring done to check whether the gardens that were established were sustained beyond the project implementation cycle, and also whether there are plans to establish the sustainability of those outcomes and establish and shift the communities from where they were in terms of food insecurity to resilience. My second one, which is tied between Angela's presentation and the second presentation, we keep talking about nutrition diversity, and nutrition diversity, for it to be achieved, you must tie it to sustained diversified production throughout the year. And this cannot be rain-fed. So what strategies did you put in place post-project implementation to make sure that you were supporting irrigation agriculture so that we have sustained nutrition and health outcomes? To Barack, on the tobacco-free farms, the cost benefit between tobacco, shifting from tobacco to high iron beans was very well explained. However, high iron beans are more expensive than normal beans. So what strategies have you put in place for the schools and the other customers that you mentioned to make sure that even in light of tough economic times, the parents and the school boards understand the cost, benefit, and the return on investment for the high iron beans compared to the normal bean? And to Calro, the farmers have been complaining a lot about the seed sustainability. So at what point, and this is to the last presenter, at what point do we shift from trials to sustained production? The very last one, I'm sorry I'm asking too many questions, to action against hunger, this is the very last one. On the collaborative approach that was mentioned, some key stakeholders were missing, and I commend you for having the private public partnership, but the Ministry of Environment and NDMA are 2 key stakeholders that were missing in your project. And when we are talking about climate smart agriculture, we cannot do that without sustainable water harvesting.
So what did you do to make sure that this project is actually sustained by the community beyond the project period? And, you know, the Food and Nutrition Security Policy Implementation Framework, this is about the I think it was West Pokot of something, the presentation, had established county food and nutrition security committees that were linked to a National Food and Nutrition Security Council. Those were never implemented. So even as we discuss the CNTFs, the multi-stakeholder groups, at what point do we discuss the fact that we never implemented what had been put in the Food and Nutrition Security Policy Implementation Framework, whose implementation period lapsed because it was 2017 to 2022?
All right, thank you. We will request that you prioritize your questions, one high-level question per participant.
Thank you so much. I'm Simon from West Pokot. And my first question or concern will go to Mercy, who was actually presenting on the issue where she based her study on the mother-to-mother support groups. And a little bit concerned for the sake of sustainability of all the measures that we are putting in place. What is being done to bring the man on board, that is to say, male involvement, so that we could sustain some of these programs in the absence of the other person from their family, or eventually the issue of resource allocation and decision making usually comes up with a responsibility, like the men usually, especially in the pastoral communities, take the center stage of decision making. Secondly, please, I'm just requesting, because I've been following closely and keenly the issues that have been happening since yesterday. I haven't spoken, and I wanted also to ask a question that will be directed to presenter from Isiolo, where very innovative ways have been employed to bring up kitchen gardens, which has brought about the food diversities in the county, or maybe where the study was taken. The issue of water, I am interested to know how the water is gotten, because back at home also we have these challenges where even water for face washing or hand washing is a very difficult thing. I'm interested to know how we could get maybe a sustainable way of getting water so that we can sustain the gains that we are making.
Thank you. I hope our presenters, you've been following the questions. So we expect answers from Barak, Kimani, Josephine, Angela, Mercy, and Janet. Who wants to go first? Kimani?
Thank you. I received a question. My name is Lydia Kimani again. What do I face? Okay. So I received a question on what type of potato that was being cultivated now that in Trans Nzoia we have maize. So GIZ was supporting farmers to do potato farming, and they were being given different varieties to do farming. So when we were coming with nutrition integration messages, we were not looking at the varieties, but the agriculture team was looking at varieties. We were working together. Unfortunately, we didn't come with one, but our main aim was for these farmers, how do we bring the issues of nutrition messages? How do we bring the issues of wash, issues of latrine, food hygiene, avoidance of food spoilage, how to wash these utensils, and also the issues of food production. So we were not looking at varieties when it came to the nutrition messages, but the agriculture team had the varieties. I hope I've answered that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I got a question from the gentleman from West Pokot. I'll start with that one. He's asking about the water in Isiolo County, given that you are dealing with very dry areas. That is true. If you looked at the design of our gardens, we are employing what we call permaculture approach or technology. It's very water efficiency. From the design of the garden, less than 5 liters of water per day is enough for your garden, depending on the size. So the minimum that you are doing, it's 2 by 2 meters, a garden that carries multiple, we practice multiple, mat cropping. So in addition to that, we are using a grey water. We are training these mothers to recycle water. We don't waste any water from the kitchen, from the bathroom, everywhere. So the water we recycle, and it's sufficient to water our gardens. I hope that is that's understandable. And then on the second question on collaborative with the other ministries, department that is the environment and WASH. Sorry, that was not mentioned. When you talk about tree planting, we are working with KFS in Isiolo. They are providing us with actually seedlings for this, because every household that you are reaching, we're ensuring that as much as you are doing a kitchen garden, we are also supporting you to plant trees. So KFS we are working with. WASH, we are working closely with WASH. Before going to the community, we are also passing through the WASH department and talking to them. Even right now, we are in communication with them, looking for the areas whereby they are advising us where we have boreholes, where we have high yield, and we can do farming in such areas. So yes, we are working closely with all those departments. Thank you.
We had a question on how we promote sustainable, diversified, and nutritious vegetables in our project, and making sure that we don't use rainfed, we don't depend on rain-fed irrigation all the time. So the kind of production that we encourage is using micro-irrigation, making sure that we use technologies that are climate smart. By that we mean that the technologies that use little water for irrigation. For example, we mentioned about the conical gardens, the use of we call them sunken beds, because they retain water when irrigated. So for our sources of water, we normally, most of our projects some are around the boreholes that have been rehabilitated by the organization or the Ministry of Water, and other sources of water are like the river that are used for irrigating these gardens. So I also want to add about the other partners that we work with. I think we missed on NDMA and the Department of Water, because for NDMA, we work closely with them in all our projects, not just for food security projects, but all our programming, because the NDMA has a mandate in coordinating all the activities that are going on in the county. So, for example, the CSGs, we do disseminate information through the CSGs, and the NDMA, that is the main role of NDMA in the counties, one of the main roles. So another one is a question was asked by a gentleman from West Pokot on how we are ensuring that we have male involvement in our programming. So for the nutrition sector activities, we ensure that we have community dialogues whereby we call upon them. We have even specific forum for the men to have a discussion, and through such forums, we ensure that message on how they should be supporting their families, for instance, in agriculture or childcare practices. That kind of information is shared through such platforms. I hope I've answered you.
Thank you so much. My name is Robert, and not Barack. Barack is a colleague and my boss, so we work together, and he is a co-author of this report. So maybe to respond to what colleague, friend asked in terms of long-term cultivation. Point number one, tobacco is a heavy feeder. Point number two, every time when you're harvesting tobacco, you are harvesting the leaves. So there's no opportunity to have the leaves into the soil to be able to replenish the soil with organic carbon. And then because it's a heavy feeder, continuous cultivation means a lot of these nutrients are utilized from the soil without being replaced. In as much as farmers apply fertilizer, the fertilizer is usually directly consumed by the tobacco. That's why the report is there. The soil testing and sampling was done by CALRO, the experts in soil. They are the ones who did the report. Should you need it, we can share with you. And then when it comes to the issue by our sister there that high iron bean is expensive, that's of course it's an it's an assumption that is expensive, because everything in the market is determined by the forces of demand and supply. So whenever if you look at high iron beans, the demand is low and the supply is high. So generally, it will be the demand is usually high, while the supply is low, the demand is high, so the prices will shoot. That's why the prices are generally high, but we have evidence that through the cost-benefit analysis and the gross margin, you only need to sell a kilo of nyota bean at 40 shillings, 42 shillings to break even. So farmers selling at 110, 130, they are making supernormal profits. So that one we cannot have influence over, because it's the forces of demand and supply. So what we are doing is we are promoting a community seed system, so that the seed is available, so that the supply is high to be able to manage the demand, so that at least the prices are also reasonable. But if you look at the market currently, you may realize that the prices are generally, there's no significant difference in terms of those prices. So we are doing seed bulking. Currently we have, in fact, for your information, this project has been upscaled from Migori to Busia, Bungoma, and Meru. And we have set aside 12 metric tons of seed for purposes of seed bulking, because the biggest challenge is seed. Seed, that's what he had mentioned. Seed is the biggest challenge, and that's what we are trying to address. So I hope I have responded. Thank you.
I think you have, and if he has not fully responded, please grab him after tea or during the tea break and get the details. We have Josephine, you had you were supposed to answer a question. I don't know whether Angela, I know she was leaving, but she promised us somebody was going to be here. Irene is there. So Irene, you took the question? Okay, perfect. Okay, so Josephine, then Irene.
Okay, thank you. The first question is on availability of certified seeds. Where can you access this? One is Karo Katumani. The other one is Dry Rad Machakos and Bubai. That should be in Kitare. And as has mentioned, I think this year we should be working in 10 counties, expecting a total of 21,600 metric tons of seeds. And this is through the Farm to Market Alliance initiative. It supports the private sector to scale up some of these initiatives. I think that is it, because the other question on sustained seed production for Sotako did as well. Thanks.
Irene, please.
Okay, thank you very much. This is quite an enriching experience. I would like to respond on behalf of Angela Theuri, who had to step out. There was a question on post-implementation monitoring and sustainability of the project that was implemented in Kitui. About post-implementation monitoring, you'll find that some of the easiest ways, there are some technologies that we could use that are actually very easy to reach out to these beneficiaries. For example, WhatsApp. We had establishment of WhatsApp groups within that particular project. From 2019 to date, they are still active. And this is where we've brought together various partners. This project was USAID funded under the Feed the Future program. And we have even the county government playing a big role in terms of extension. We have FAO. So all these beneficiaries are linked under one WhatsApp group, and to date it is active. They are asking questions if they have challenges, and they've been supported. And it doesn't stop there. Some of them are even here in this nutrition symposium. They are sharing stories. Some of us they will be with us in the evening during a dinner we are having, where they'll be giving great stories to the PSAs. And then there was another question about sustainability. Yeah, with time, we've linked these beneficiaries to projects that keeps coming to those counties. An example is a JICA project that is currently ongoing. And I think Angela also mentioned about a bigger project which was called Increasing Smallholder Productivity and Profitability. And under this project, there were organized groups. The farmers were supposed to establish organized groups, and they were linked to market. So the TIPS beneficiaries who are nutritionally vulnerable were linked to these groups so that they can generate income, which eventually will translate into nutrition improvement. And they can also transfer the knowledge to the bigger group that they have gained through the TIPS project. Also under the bigger ISPP projects, we had establishment of water resources for production, for sustainability.
Thank you, Irene. We've been told time is up. Unless you have a burning question, one which you feel I must ask this one, otherwise I won't have tea. One, I'm only taking two. Yes, and two. Okay. Oh, I'm safe. Okay.
I took note that we never asked the professor from Egerton a question unless it was asked when I was out. And the question for Prof is the following. Good initiative. My question, and we can take it offline, are you engaging alumni to know how to design and give feedback to your program? That's number one. Now, the next comment is for happiness, and I think you presented a very good one. We have some experiences on how to support MSN, MSP to work at the leadership. At the technical level, we know, but we need to have ministers, governors, and that level participating and leading those discussions. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. My question goes to the last presenter. She mentioned something about cultural issues and some of the practices in relation to nutrition. And one of them is soaking of beans. And that is a practice that is being practiced everywhere. So from the study, did you come up with something on the effect of the soaking on the nutrition or the nutrition value of the beans?
Okay, so Dr. Reid, we start with you.
Okay, thank you. I didn't take his name, but yes, we are engaging alumni. Our programs have a 4-year cycle. After that, we do a review. Currently, we have a group of people going around collecting information to be able to strengthen our program. Thanks.
Thank you. Happiness? Where's happiness? Oh. Too happy. There you go.
It's Peter. Thank you for your comment, Peter. I think those are very good insights, and then we can have offline discussions after this. Thank you.
So you have a tea date with Peter. Okay.
Thanks for the question. As I said, this was not a research for the nutrition, but what we do know, I know the question here, we're talking of iron and zinc, and what is the effect of soaking. nothing much, because what we are looking at when we are doing soaking is the phytate and releasing of the nutrients and making them more bioavailable, increasing the bioavailability. However, looking at all the previous studies that have been done, even by Carlo, to inform this particular biofortified seed, which is either Agaza, Nyota, or Faida, we do not have any variance in the nutrition value or availability, unless otherwise.
Thank you. I think that's it. Okay. Christine? Okay, fine. All right, thank you. I think now we come to the end of this session, and overall, I think it's really been one of the most interesting sessions I've ever attended. When you look at the kind of presentations that were done, the kind of operational studies that are ongoing with partners, they've shared their lessons learned, but we can see something that has come out that is so clear to all of us, that MSN approach appears, or it is the way to go. The successes cannot be debated about anymore. We can see it's working. We have also heard about all the initiatives that the government is taking in collaboration with the partners, quite clear results that are coming in. We can see active, smart, climate smart technologies working and yielding results. And I think we are living here with our hands on our hearts and saying, we have been in a forum whereby we are in a position to learn from someone, and we are taking home something. And I believe that all these presenters, you have some of these presentations that you can share, and you can, and also people can always contact you now that they know who you are, and they can be able to learn from you on one-on-one. In the event that you still have something that's burning inside of you, and you feel that this one I must ask before I go home, please grab them after this and when you're having your tea. Otherwise, we wish you all the best, and thanks also from Christine, who is behind there, and our rapporteurs. You've done a great job. We hope to get the reports from you. And thank you again. Have a very good evening. Thank you.
So we are not done with the sessions. So we are waiting for the other teams to come and join us so that we wrap up our symposium. So please don't leave.
Shall wait for them to open the, what is it called? The
partition.
Partition, yes.
Bye.